What is going on, guys? It is Dylan with Astrodfs bringing you the Saturday video, June 20th, for the Paris homestand matchups. So yesterday I did not have a good day. I kind of screwed up with the lineups that I wanted. Ended up falling asleep before I fixed all my lineups, so only had one lineup that did what I wanted it to do. The other ones either were completely off, I didn't make changes, or the players just didn't play to how I thought they were going to play. We saw Toronto go a round 11 game 5 against Atlanta, which no one saw coming. Kleenex had a really good start with Toronto. We saw London bring Dallas to a game 5. I thought it was going to go 4 games easy. 5 would be pushing it, but London actually almost beat Dallas. They were up 2-1 in the series, so they brought it back as well. Then we saw New York and OGLA have a close series. New York ended up taking that. And Slasher had one of his worst performances he's had since switching to online. And then Florida just destroying Paris, which I figured. Kind of thought Paris would take a map off of Florida, though, but I mean, it is Paris and it is Florida. Florida's just been playing phenomenal. So today's matchups, we have New York against Atlanta, which we saw twice so far. Florida versus Dallas, which we just saw at the last event where Florida knocked off Dallas. OGLA in Toronto, which brings up interesting numbers for me. And then the first time this year, even at LAN, Paris and London are playing each other, which to me is pretty cool because it's a European matchup for the most part. So there's that to look forward to. So we're just going to look at prices. New York, Atlanta. Atlanta has just been playing off. And you just don't know what to expect except for Celium to just go completely off. He's just been playing so good. Simps slowed down just a little, but you can only do so much for so long. You're going to have an off game. Or you're going to get into a funk, but I mean, he's still putting up crazy numbers. The 2 times they did meet up, both games went to a game 5, and Simp had one of his best performances he did all year. 142 fantasy points, the other one 87, pretty much the same for Celium too. Mac Melts, look at his numbers against Atlanta, and they're pretty consistent. 101 and 109. Didn't go positive in that series, but I didn't expect him. I mean, with how good Simp and Cell are, it's hard to. Pretty much you can go top to bottom anybody from Atlanta at this point. Or you can sneak a play-in of Temp, Attach, Accuracy, Zuma, all under 7,000. This matchup I can easily see going game 4. I could see Atlanta maybe, if they're playing the way they should be and not how they've played, get a 3-0, but I doubt it's going to happen. So you get that second hard point, and these players get points. So yeah, under 7,000, I could go with somebody from New York. Temp and Attach are the 2 players that I would go after. But yeah, there's no going wrong with these prices. Simp is 8,800, which, yeah, that's pretty cheap. It really is. So definitely something to look forward to. Florida Dallas is going to be a really good series. This is where we're going to see Shotzi and Awakening go at it again. Shotzi had 114 fantasy points against him. Let me go and look at Awakening, and he gets 106. Is that what you want when you're paying top dollar for players? Not necessarily, but it's going to be a really good matchup. I expect it to go Game 5. Hugh has been playing really, really well lately. He's been playing really consistent, helping Dallas get a groove. The only thing that I kind of am trying to see where I could fit him in is his 8,000 price range. He's been all over the place money-wise so far. 8,000 is a good price, but Illy, I mean, you look at Illy's numbers, and he's produced a couple 100-point games with being around the $7,000 range. So he's a player I look at. Farrow's been playing really well lately. So he's an option at 6,600. Clayster at 7,000. Only 67 fantasy points against Florida. I could see something that like that happening again. And then Skies is only 7,200, which, yet again, that's cheap. It is cheap. Optic Gaming in Toronto. We could look at their numbers. 146 points out of Slasher in that game, but he didn't even get the highest when they did play. It ended up being Metals, who got 151, and that was just ridiculous. At the same time, Dashy got 142, so those numbers easily stick out to me. How I expect this matchup to go is Optic Gaming pretty much, if they want a chance at getting to the finals, they need to have a pretty convincing win here against Toronto. After losing to New York and having Florida, Dallas, and Atlanta up there, and still having London and New York still at the tournament, like, you have to have a pretty convincing win against Toronto to have not only confidence in yourself, but to scare some of the other teams just a little bit. So I expect Optic Gaming to win this one pretty convincingly. Can easily see a Game 3, Game 4, but you don't know what to expect with this Toronto roster. With Kleenex getting in there, his price is way too high for a player we've only seen one map from. So I'm not gonna take the chance on him yet. But there's some names in there. I mean, Dashy is 7,400, and that's a player that I'm looking at right now currently. But we'll go over the last matchup. Paris and London, like I said, it's a European matchup, so I think it's going to be really interesting here. Luka comes out as the most expensive player at 9,400, Zero right behind him, 8,600, so a little bit of difference there. And Zero, I like a lot in this matchup. When he first got on the team, he made a really big impact, and I still think he's going to. That team plays better with him than they did before without him. The only thing that worries me is the same thing that worried me yesterday, which was, how is Paris going to play? If Paris can take a map or two or win the series off of London, that's great. But at the same time, they can just get totally destroyed like they did yesterday against Florida. Granted, London's not the team that Florida is, but we've seen London hang with the top team. So, Weskins is only 7,000. That interests me quite a bit. Scraps is 8,000. That interests me. And Dylan is 7,800. So that interests me. I'm going to do a cash lineup right now. And show you guys what I like. So Optic Gaming, 1,600 for a team. That's great. We go look, and Slasher is one of the names that I like a lot. We'll go to cheaper players, see what we can pick up. Wuskin been putting up a couple 90-point games, stuff like that. But I am going to get his teammate Zero in for sure. Going to get Simp in there, especially at his price point. We're going to go to the flex and we're going to put Slasher in there. Gives us 8,000. And then from there we could put Dashy in, because I really like Dashy. And then we get someone like Hugh in there. So what I see in this cash lineup that, I would feel confident of putting in is we have two players from the Optic Gaming Toronto matchup. Dashy and Slasher, the two guys that went off, and the two guys that need to go off for them to win convincingly. And then one from the next other three matches, just because the Saturday matches, in my opinion, with 4 games and the two better teams winning and the two worser teams losing, still kind of balances out and makes it really competitive, rather than the Friday matches. You see a couple of teams that are probably going to win or should win, versus Saturday, it's a big toss-up. So I like to have exposure somewhere in those games just in case anything happens. So Zero, really cheap price. Playing against Paris, he's a good sub. I don't think Paris is, unless Dens and Luca just go completely off, which they can. In order for Paris to win, they have to. I just like Zero's potential against Paris. Simp, just way too cheap against New York. Said I expect a game 4. So Simp's the guy I target there. And then Hook against Florida. The only reason I do that is because he's also cheap. He's 8,000. And he's playing a Florida team to where he needs to step up for that team to win. Now, if you're me and you want to throw a curveball out there, we put Florida as our team. It saves you a little bit of money. They just beat Dallas. They could beat Dallas again. Do I think they are? I don't know. And then we get our captain, and the captain is interesting on this one for me. Personally, yesterday I had Attach and that backfired. So we'll see what we could do with flex and just throw a roster out there that I think could take down some stuff for a GPP. So I like a BZ, 7,600. I think that's a really good price point for someone like him. Let's go look at London. Really liking Wuskin at his price. Go look at Skies. Someone like him, and now we get to the captain spot. We could put someone like Shotzi in there. So we still have a lot of money over. We could put Slasher in there. And we could make a change. One change I would make is Wuskin here, so we get a whole lot more money. And you go his two teammates. You can get Dashy in there. Anything like that. Or we could switch the teams, whoever you think is going to win, for instance, and get London in there. They're one of the teams I'm more confident of picking of winning today. And then let's just throw a huge curveball and hope Metals does that crazy performance that he did against Optic Gaming in the first time. So that's another GPP lineup that I am going to enter. Just because you have one of the top scorer in the league on Slasher, who had one of his best games in this year against Toronto. Had one of his worst days yesterday, and I think he's going to bounce back. So he's someone I like. Skies is 7,200. Anytime you get an AR for that cheap, you try to take advantage. Granted, it is against Dallas, so that brings a few problems to me, but I still like it. And then Metals and BZ are my two curveballs. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope this helps. Granted, like I said yesterday, it was just full 180 of what I wanted to have happen, but you do have days like that. It is going to happen. There's no way around it. So hope you guys enjoyed the videos, and we will see you in the next one.